Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video we got a couple of things to discuss. We got a couple of games to recap, we got a sign to talk about, we got some waiver updates, injury updates, and a couple of trade rumors involving the Sabres, Capitals, Flames, and Canucks. So there's all that coming up right now. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here at the Internet Hockey Channel. Before I begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We're so close to 200 subscribers, I would never be able to do it without all of your guys' support, so don't forget to subscribe. But going back to the regular video, we'll talk about the games that happened over the past couple of days. First, there were a handful of games, not too many, but there was a decent amount. We'll start with what happened on Tuesday and then work our way on to Wednesday. On Tuesday, some solid games happened, including the Vancouver Canucks and Philadelphia Flyers locked in a really good goalie battle. The Flyers came away with a 2-0 victory. Hart earned his first shutout of the season, a 25-save shutout. Sean Couturier had a penalty shot goal, his first goal since coming back off of injury, which is absolutely fantastic news. It's good to see Couturier get on the score sheet. Igor Zamula, the Flyers' young defenseman, wound up getting the game winner with his first career NHL goal. But one of the bigger stories of this game was that Demko was fantastic, including making this spectacular save here on one of the Philadelphia Flyers shots. He was an absolutely outstanding beast in net for Vancouver, but the Canucks were not able to get enough shots to get past Hart, and Hart winds up getting the shutout. Demko does fantastic in the loss, and the Flyers do end up winning 2-0. So Flyers are able to improve to 2-1-0, and the Canucks drop to 2-1-0. Then we had the Minnesota Wild take on the Montreal Canadiens, in which case the Minnesota Wild destroyed the Canadiens 5-2, and what could potentially be Marc-Andre Fleury's last game in Montreal. Kaprizov had a goal and 2 assists in that game. Joel Eriksson Ek had a couple of goals in that game. He continues his strong start to the season. Matt Zuccarello had a 3-assist night, while they got a couple of shorthanded goals, one from Duhaime and one from Dewar. So some really good stuff there from Minnesota. Special teams really helped them out that night, while Pearson and Newhook, the two newcomers from Montreal, scored for the Canadiens. So good to see that Pearson and Newhook were able to get on the score sheet again. I think that's Newhook's like 3rd or 4th goal, Pearson's 2nd. So solid game for the Montreal Canadiens. They did decent, but it was too little too late, and the Wild wound up winning. So a really good game there. New York Islanders faced off against the Arizona Coyotes. Coyotes not sick enough of a back-to-back. They were shut out. Sorokin, being the extremely good goaltender he is, was able to shut out the Coyotes, making a 14-save shutout, although Vejmelka had a fantastic game as well, keeping the Coyotes in it with 33 saves on 34 shots. Matthew Barzal scored an early first-period power play goal, which will end up being the lone goal, but it's good to see that Barzal is on the score sheet early. I think it either last year or a year prior, it took him a while to get on the score sheet with a goal. So good to see Barzal was able to get a good goal, and the Islanders are able to improve to 2-0-0. Well, that drops the Arizona Coyotes to 1-2-0, so not good news for the Coyotes there. The Sabres play the Bulls, both teams looking for a huge win. The Sabres were able to get out to a 2-0 lead, thanks to goals from Zemgias Girgensons and Jeff Skinner early in the first to make it 2-0. That was a huge lead for the Sabres, but they would blow it. Late second period goal from Brandon Hagel and late third period goal from Brandon Hagel with 7 seconds left were able to tie the game up for the Bolts, so Hagel had a fantastic 2-goal game. But in overtime, the Sabres were able to get the win thanks to a goal from Dylan Cousins. That was a huge goal for the Sabres, who are 0-2-0. We talked about this in last video. I'll link my last video up in the YouTube cards here. But we talked about last video about how starting with a 3-game losing streak is a death sentence for teams. And over the past 5 full 82-game seasons, only 3 of the 17 teams were able to come back and make the playoffs from starting with 3 straight losses. So it's good to see that the Sabres were able to avoid that. Really good to see that as they improved to 1-2-0. Well, the Bolts, after winning their first game against Nashville, have now lost 3 straight and are now 1-2-1, and their schedule does not get any easier. I really have my doubts about Tampa Bay doing well this year. So we'll have to wait and see, but Tampa continues to fall while Buffalo is able to get their first win of the year. Then Edmonton came out with fire in their eyes after losing 2 games, one in a blowout, one in a close game to Vancouver over the past week. They were hungry and they were looking for their first win, and they got it in a dominating win over the Nashville Predators. Draisaitl had 2 goals, 2 assists, including becoming the Oilers' all-time power play leader in goals. So all-time leader in power play goals with a lot of great legends that used to play with Edmonton is absolutely fantastic for Draisaitl, and it doesn't look like he's any closer to slowing down. So he's going to extend that lead for power play goal leader in Edmonton for a while. So good to see Draisaitl was able to do that. Zach Hyman had a 4-point night as well, tallying a goal and 3 assists. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had a goal and 2 assists. Connor McDavid and Warren Foegele both had a goal and assist. Evan Bouchard had a couple of assists in the Edmonton Oilers win, while Nashville had Thomas Novak scored the one lone goal for them. So Nashville continues to fall. I really hope they can turn things around because they have not looked good this year. They do have a win. It was against Seattle, but besides that, their offense looks really dried up right now. So I hope Nashville can rebound and figure out their offensive game. But for now, they do not look good, while Edmonton, just like Buffalo, avoided 3 losses to start the year. Then, Kings, just like the Oilers and Sabres, were looking to avoid losing their 3rd straight to start the year. They were able to do so with a dominant 5-1 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. The first goal came against the player who was coming back to face his former team. This goal here, remember all video clips are credited to Sportsnet, but this goal here from Pierre-Luc Dubois made it 1-0 Kings over the Winnipeg Jets. So that was a solid start for the Kings. Moore and Deneau, playing on that same line without Arvidsson right now, both had 3 points. Moore had 2 goals and an assist. Deneau had a goal and 2 assists. Both had 3-point nights. So solid games for those two. Kaliev had a goal and an assist for the Kings. So all 3 of those guys had fantastic nights. Dubois had his first goal as a member of the Kings against the Jets. So that was a solid goal for the Kings to open the scoring. Scheifele would score a late one to get the Jets on the board and break Talbot's shutout bid. But the Kings do look really good. They were able to bounce back in a huge way and were able to get the win. So a huge win there for the Kings to improve to 1-1-1 and drop the Jets to 1-2-0. Now the Kraken were looking for their first win after they were already the first team to lose 3 straight games to start the year this year, and it does not get any easier for them as they drop another one, this time 4-1 to the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche got 4 solid goal scorers from Nichushkin, O'Connor, Lehkonen, and Rantanen. 4 straight goals after the Kraken opened the scoring thanks to Yamamoto's first as a member of the Seattle Kraken. The Spokane native was able to get his first with Seattle, but it was only the first goal, and then Colorado stormed back and won. So Colorado improves to 3-0-0 and are able to remain undefeated, while Seattle drops to 0-3-1 and they remain winless. And I'm really concerned now about Seattle because their defense is not overly great, and their offense, which was fire last year, is not getting the job done. So that's really concerning there. Then you had the Canes take on the Sharks. Sharks were actually doing pretty good for a little bit of time there. They were up 3-2. But then the Canes stormed back with 4 straight goals and wound up winning the game 6-3. I don't think that's too much of a surprise. Canes are a way better team than the Sharks. Sharks were getting their butt saved by Mackenzie Blackwood, who had another fantastic game, but the Canes were able to figure him out and get enough goals to get away with the win. Jarvis scored a couple of goals in that game. Stefan Noethen and Marinatius both had a goal and an assist. Kotkaniemi and Bunting both had a couple of assists, while Pesce and Slavin also scored the other 2 goals for the Canes. Meanwhile, Fabian Zyerland had a goal and an assist for the Sharks. Tomas Hertl had 2 assist game for the Sharks. And then both Philip Zadina and William Eklund also scored for the Sharks in the loss. So it was a really good game for the Sharks, but they are the only other team this year to start with 3 straight losses to open the season, as they drop to 0-2-1, while the Canes improve to 3-1-0. So a solid game there from the Canes and the Sharks, but the Canes come away with a victory. The Golden Knights and Stars are both looking to continue their winning streaks, taking on each other, but the Golden Knights were a team who came away with a victory, as the Knights improved to 4-0 thanks to a 3-2 shootout victory over the Dallas Stars. Both William Karlsson and Kane Korczak had a goal and an assist, including this goal here from Kane Korczak. It's first of the season, which tied the game up at 1. So Korczak was able to tie the game up at 1. Karlsson tied the game up at 2. Both of them had a goal and an assist in this game, so it was a solid game from both guys. And then Jonathan Marchessault and Shea Theodore scored in the shootout for the Golden Knights. Meanwhile, Craig Smith scores first as a member of the Dallas Stars, and Joe Pavelski also scored for the Dallas Stars, while Matt Duchene got the lone shootout goal for the Stars. So Stars lose, they continue their point streak to begin the season, but their winning streak's gone. The Knights of Star are 4-0. They look lethal right now after winning the Stanley Cup. I think all the people who thought they would start out a little bit sloppy after winning the Stanley Cup this past year, I think all those people have been proven wrong right now. The Knights look dangerous. Well, we had 2 games last night. One between the Caps and the Sens, one between the Penguins and the Red Wings. First between the Caps and the Sens. Sens really gave it to the Capitals, including this goal here, which was the second of the game for the Ottawa Senators. Josh Norris, in his first game back of the season since suffering that really bad injury last year, was able to score his first of the season here to make it 2-0 Sens. It wound up finishing 6-1 Ottawa. Norris had a 2-goal game, so that's 1 plus 1 more. Tim Stützle had a 3-assist night. Jake Sanderson and Vladimir Tarasenko both had a goal and an assist. Drake Batherson had a 2-assist game. And Artem Zub also scored for the Ottawa Senators, while John Carlson was the lone goal scorer for the Washington Capitals. So the Caps continues to have problems scoring, and Ottawa continues to thrash their opponents after their opening day loss. Meanwhile, Detroit played Pittsburgh. Both teams looking to go to 3-1-0, and the Red Wings were able to come away with a 6-3 victory. DeBrincat had another solid game, putting up 2 goals and an assist for a 3-point night. Dylan Larkin had a 3-assist game. Andrew Kopp scored a couple of goals. Jeff Petrie, who was scratched in the prior game, wound up having 2 assists. David Perron and Ben Sherratt both also had a goal for the Red Wings in the win. While for the Penguins, Erik Karlsson has first goal as a member of the Penguins and had 3-point night, goal and 2 assists. While Brian Rustin of Evgeny Malkin also scored for the Penguins in the loss. Pens dropped to 2-2-0. Red Wings improved to 3-1-0. So definitely, some really good games there. I definitely think all those teams did really good. We have a full slate of 12 games today and 2 games tomorrow, so we'll touch on those games in our next video on Saturday. But definitely, really good starts. The only teams, like I said in my last video, about really bad starts, I talked a little bit about that. The only 2 teams who started with at least a 3-game losing streak to start the year were the Kraken and the Sharks this year. So not an overabundance of teams wound up starting really, really bad, but the Sharks and Kraken are the only 2. So I really have concerns about those 2 being able to get back into the playoff race, because those 2 have not looked overly good, and those 2 are both still on losing streaks. So we'll have to wait and see if they can break them when they play next. But that's your scoring update. Quick signing update here. Not an overly huge piece of news here, but the Pittsburgh Penguins, who did have Libor Hajek on a PTO, decided to let him go on a PTO, and he signed with their AHL affiliates in Wilkes-Barre. So not overly surprising there. Hayek, decent like 7th, 8th defenseman. The Penguins don't really have much space in their roster, and they're really tied to caps, so they didn't want to sign him to the NHL roster. So they signed him to the AHL roster. That's a pretty decent deal. He's going to remain with the AHL affiliates. If they run into enough injuries, they could sign him to an NHL deal later, and he could do all right. So definitely, I think that's a decent deal. So he doesn't get an NHL contract off of his PTO, but he at least gets a contract, and he's going to be able to play somewhere this year. So good to see Hayek get a contract. That PTO has now been done with, so it's good to see another PTO get resolved, and hopefully Hayek can do well in Wilkes-Barre, maybe even earn himself an NHL contract. But that PTO update is done, so there's still a handful of guys left with their PTOs, and there's no other signings, so no other things there. When we go over to the waiver update, there's a couple of waiver update news that has happened over the past little while. First, Keith Kincaid with New Jersey Devils, who started the season on season opening injury reserve, was placed on waivers because he's now healthy. They wanted to put him down on some minors. He did sign an AHL deal with the Chicago Wolves, so he was going to be demoted to the Chicago Wolves AHL affiliates because they're an independent AHL organization, and he did indeed clear. He's a good solid third stringer, but I don't think he's an upgrade in any team's backups right now, so I am definitely not surprised he wound up clearing. Kincaid's a solid goaltender, but he's a third stringer at this point in time, so no real surprise that he wound up clearing, and he's sent down to Chicago Wolves organization. And the Devils still have a guy that's like Dawes and Shalgren as well, so I'm not overly surprised that he was not only placed on waivers but wound up clearing. So that's not surprising there in my opinion. Then in a small trade, which we'll get to in a second, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquired Kirill Plasik from the Vancouver Canucks, and Plasik wound up being placed on unconditional waivers. He has not cleared yet. At the recording of this video, the waivers have not been done yet, but there's a lot of speculation he'll probably wind up clearing. Plasik's a decent prospect who's more of an AHL, ECHL player, so I don't think it's overly surprising that he gets placed on waivers for the purpose of contract termination. He's a decent player, but the Penguins look to be trying to get a contract slot from them. You can only have 50 contracts, so buying him out really helps that team. So it'll be interesting to see, but I expect Plasik, who's more of an AHL, ECHL player, to probably clear unconditional waivers and be terminated with his contract. And then there's been some talk today that Kevin LeBanc, who's a solid bomb six forward with the San Jose Sharks, is going to be placed on waivers today. So we'll have to talk about this in our next video, but LeBanc's a solid third, fourth line forward who just hasn't been able to get a shot with San Jose this year. His play has not been overly well over the past few years, and his cap is, I think, $4.725 million. With the amount of teams out there right now who don't have enough cap space, I would definitely not be surprised if LeBanc will end up clearing if he is going on waivers. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's going to be an interesting name. But just because of his cap, I don't expect him to be claimed. So it'll be interesting to see there. Just like I said a little while ago, the Canucks and Penguins did make a trade yesterday. The Vancouver Canucks acquired Mark Friedman and Ty Glover in exchange for Kirill Plastic and Jack Rathbone going to Pittsburgh. It was a decent trade. Rathbone's a good young defenseman. He's more of a puck-moving defenseman, but hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities with the Vancouver Canucks, and he always seems to be demoted to the AHL, so he gets a fresh start. That's a very fantastic move for the Penguins. He's going to be a solid, possibly third-pair defenseman. I'll expect him to probably start in the AHL, but if they run into injuries, he would be a fantastic call-up option, probably one of their first call-up options, and could definitely be a solid third-pair left-shot defenseman, so that's a fantastic move, in my opinion, for the Penguins to get him. For the Canucks, they need some more grit. Noah Juleson was not playing overly well over the past couple of games, so they're going to get Mark Friedman, who has an NHL experience, can definitely be a solid third-pair defenseman. He's more of a physical-type defenseman. He won't put you up too many points, but he's definitely a guy who can definitely help on that third pair and be a stabilizing force. So definitely, I think Friedman to Vancouver, he'll probably be a third-pair defenseman. Rathbone in Pittsburgh could probably be a 6th, 7th defenseman. Definitely be a call-up option if there's injuries. I think this is a really good trade for both sides. The Canucks get some more bigger on the blue line and a more stabilizing third-pair defenseman. Penguins get a fresh start for Rathbone, and hopefully we'll be able to use him on the third pair, and hopefully he'll be able to show off his offensive abilities. Glover, with an undrafted center prospect who was playing over in college up until this past year, probably still needs a couple of years left developing in the AHL, but still, even with that, I think he's a solid player who I think eventually could be a good solid like third or fourth line center. For the Penguins, Plastic, like we just said, is placed on unconditional waivers, so they're going to terminate his contract, so no surprises there, but definitely, I like this trade in my opinion for both sides. Canucks get a little bit bigger on the blue line and get a stabilizing force, and the Penguins get someone who has a very high upside in Jack Rathbone for a player who they weren't going to be playing very much this season. So really good move there from the Pens and the Canucks. Going over to a couple of injury updates here. For the Carolina Hurricanes, Sebastian Aho and Frederick Anderson both had injuries. Anderson sustained in the last game for the Carolina Hurricanes. Aho missed last game due to that injury. Both have upper body injuries and are out for an unknown period of time, so that's not really good news there for the Carolina Hurricanes. Kirby Dach's knee injury, as we talked about, could be a couple of months. It's actually going to be season-ending injury, so really bad news for Dach to see him have his season end right now. He's a solid NHL forward, so not good to see him go down with the injury. The Jets' Gabriel Velarde has a lower body injury. He's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Really bad play against the Kings where he got tangled up with one of the Kings players. Really not really good things. I think it was like an MCL or ACL sprain, so it could have been worse, but I think Velarde definitely is going to be missed by the Winnipeg Jets now. The Buffalo Sabres, Matthias Samuelsson left the game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has upper body injury and is out day right now for the Sabres, so not good there. Rupe Hintz in Dallas, Carson Seuss in Vancouver, Couturier in Philadelphia, and Will Carrier in Vegas all wound up being cleared to play for their games on Tuesday, so good to see that those guys got up getting back. Eric Holla has an upper body injury and is out day. Alex Goligoski's going to miss the next 6 to 10 weeks, I think it was, with a lower body injury, and he's going to be out for a while. I think it was an ankle injury, so really bad news there for the Wild to lose another solid defenseman for the next couple of weeks, probably next month or two. So really bad news there. Goligoski's a good 6th, 7th defenseman, so horrible news to lose him. Luke Schenn has a lower body injury. He's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's awful news for the Nashville Predators. He's a solid right-shot defenseman. Like we said, Norris was cleared to play, so he's back in the game action. Rangers forward Nick Bonino has a lower body injury and is out day, so not good news there. Like we said, Keith Kincaid has been cleared to play. So is Leo Carlsson, who a lot of people expect could be making his NHL debut in the Ducks' next game. So solid news there for the Anaheim Ducks' young prospect. Nick Dowd has an upper body injury and is out for an unknown period of time in Washington, so that's not good news. Cameron Butler and John Randall Avon were both cleared to play by the Philadelphia Flyers, so good news there that those guys would activate off of SOIR, or season opening injury reserve. Artem Zub has a head injury. He's going to be out for an unknown period of time. Not really good news there for the Senators. But Stamkos has been cleared to play. Samuelsson has recovered from his injury that suffered a couple of days ago for the Bolts and the Sabres, and it's good to see both those guys are out for not overly long period of time. And Kane Gooley has an upper body injury that keeps him out day right now. So not overly bad news there for the injury front, but really bad news for guys like Velarde and Goligoski and Schenn and Dach, who are going to be out for an overly extended period of time. So not really good news there on those fronts, but definitely had some pretty good injury updates there, with a lot of players coming back. And lastly here, going over to a couple of trade rumors. First with the Buffalo Sabres, just a quick update here. There have been no real rumors here, but I do wonder if the addition of Zach Benson and how well he's been playing on that third line might be making Victor Olofsson expendable. Now, we know that Benson's had a fantastic start to his NHL career. He's been one of the Sabres' better players. He has 2 assists in 3 games. He's looked fantastic playing on the third line with Greenway Middlestat. But the Sabres, they have a lot of young players that are coming up right now. Kulik is in the minors right now, so is Rosen. They're both doing fantastic in the AHL. Matt Savoy is currently on season opening injury reserve. What a lot of people think that when he gets back, he could definitely warrant at least a look at the NHL level. Jack Quinn is going to be out until late November, early December, but when he gets back, he's going to assume his top 6 roster spot. So it's all these young guys that they have on this team. I think there's a possibility that with Benson playing overly well, he'll probably maybe remain with the Buffalo Sabres beyond the 9-game trial, and if that's so, I think there's a possibility the Sabres look to try and move Victor Olofsson. Now, I know they were looking to move Victor Olofsson in the season for the Sabres, but I think they'll have to relook at it now. Now, he's making, I think, $4.75 million, which is going to be extremely hard for a team to fit under the cap right now, but if they were to retain a little bit of salary, it's only the rest of this year, I could definitely see some teams have interest in Victor Olofsson. A team was looking for like a middle 6 forward who can help scoring. I think there could be a fantastic fit for a guy like Olofsson. But I think with the play of Benson, with Quinn most likely coming back, with Savoy maybe even getting a shot at the NHL level before he gets sent down, I think there's not a whole bunch of room for Olofsson, and I think there's a very good chance Olofsson ends up getting traded. Maybe it doesn't happen in the not distant future, but even if it doesn't happen in the not distant future, I think at least by the trade deadline, Olofsson will not be a member of the Sabres. So it's a situation we're going to have to watch out for here, but I think with the Benson play, with Savoy most likely getting a shot, with Quinn being back at around the November-December timeline, I think there's an extremely likely chance Olofsson is not a member of the Sabres in the next couple of months. So we're going to have to wait and see, but it's definitely something I think we're going to have to keep an eye on. I think the play of Benson and his really good game, and him possibly remaining beyond the 9-game trial, really makes Olofsson expendable, and I think Olofsson may be a trade chip now for the Buffalo Sabres. Going over to Vancouver Canucks, we've heard a couple of reports over the past couple of days about Garland. Now, we've touched about him on the last couple of videos, as well as Ottawa, so I don't really want to get into too much about Garland today, but I do want to discuss a couple of quick things. There's a lot of talk from a couple of sources. Friedman did say that he's heard that the Winnipeg Jets are sort of not in the Garland conversation as much right now, as did David Pagnotta. Both said that the Jets are sort of not in the conversation at this point in time. Elliot Friedman also said he doesn't hear that the Nationals as interested as before, as with the Luke Shen injury, they may be using Fabro and Carey a lot more for the next about month, and he doesn't think that the Preds want to really part with one of those two guys in a trade for Garland at this point in time, so it doesn't look like the Preds are interested. A team who's come up as the Capitals, we'll talk about in a second, but it seems like the Capitals could be interested. It still seems like the Jackets are interested. A couple of names David Pagnotta mentioned were the Carolina Hurricanes and Chicago Blackhawks. I could definitely see could use another scoring forward like a Garland in their middle 6. But on top of that, they do have a really good defensive defenseman in Connor Murphy, who I think could be a fantastic addition to the Canucks blue line. I wonder if they're talking to the Blackhawks. Could Murphy be an addition? If they're talking to the Carolina Hurricanes, they'll ask for Brett Pesce, who's a fantastic defensive defenseman. I'm not sure if the Canes would want to part with him. There's a lot of talk that the Canes still really want to sign Pesce long term. But I definitely think that would be the guy that the Canucks would definitely ask for. If they're looking at the Capitals, not exactly sure what sort of a defenseman they will want. Could they look at a guy like Nick Jensen? Maybe. Could they look at a younger guy like an Alex Alexiev? I think that's possible. We'll have to wait and see. But I definitely think that there's a lot of possibility of those 4 teams really being interested in a top 6 forward like Garland. So we'll have to wait and see, but it sounds like the Jets and maybe the Predators are out on Garland. It sounds like the Caps, Canes, and Hawks at least have some interest. And it sounds like, according to Kevin Weeks, the Canucks are willing to retain around 30% of Garland's contract, which would be somewhere close to around $1.2, $1.3 million, which would bump the cap hit down to around 3.75. So definitely, I like that deal for the Canucks, but it sounds like with their willingness to retain money, the trade could come in the not too distant future. So we'll have to wait and see, but it sounds like a Garland trade could be on the horizon, and the Canucks want to get this done sooner rather than later. On top of that, we have a couple of rumors around the Washington Capitals. According to David Pagnotta, the Capitals are currently looking to add a top six forward. They've not had a really good offensive start to the season. They got shut out in Game 1. They were able to score 2 goals to get to a 3-2 shootout win in Game 2, and then last night they got blew out by the Ottawa Senators 6-1. So they're still looking for some top 6 help. We know they were looking for some top 6 help in season as well, but they were also looking to offload Mantha and Kuznetsov, which are really hard to do. With the current situation for the Capitals, with the cap, and them not having too much cap space, I would think they would have to move one of Mantha or Kuznetsov again if they were trying another top 6 forward. I would think they'll be trying to move Mantha. He has a $5.7 million cap hit, so it'll be really hard to move him and acquire a forward, but there's definitely been some linkage, according to David Pagnotta, to Garland. I'm not sure if the Canucks would take on Mantha, but I do think that the Caps would have some interest in Garland. On top of that, David Pagnotta did say that players like Adam Henrique, Mike Hoffman, and Anthony Duclair have also been speculated to be of interest to the Capitals. Henrique and Hoffman are more veteran-y type middle six forwards. Duclair, I think, could be a fantastic fit in Washington if they don't get Garland. So it'll be interesting to see, but it seems like the Capitals are interested in adding a top 6 forward, and would really like to do that in the not too distant future. Also, a couple of people have reported that if the Capitals are sellers, which a lot of people do think closer to the deadline, a guy like TJ Oshie might garner some interest. Oshie's a solid middle 6 forward. He is a little bit overpaid, in my opinion, for what he gives at this point in his career. But definitely, I think there would be a lot of interest in Oshie, who's a veteran who can definitely help a team on the playoff run. So definitely, watch out for the Capitals to possibly move Oshie if they're sellers at the deadline, and they're currently looking for a top 6 forward right now. And on top of that, the Calgary Flames, according to David Pagnotta, have re-engaged in talks around Dan Vladar, which is not overly surprising. The Flames really want Dustin Wolf to be the backup in Calgary, so they're looking to try and move Vladar to try and give him a fresh start, to try and get up Wolf. I'm not sure that there are a whole bunch of teams right now who are looking for some goaltending help. Like I said, LA, Edmonton, those are the two big players that come to mind. I still wonder about Buffalo. If Buffalo is not overly happy with Luukkonen or Comrie, could they possibly move one to Calgary in exchange for Vladar? I think it's possible. The Flames could definitely then move like Comrie on waivers and have him as a third stringer behind Wolf. So I definitely think teams like Buffalo, LA, and Edmonton would probably be the most likely trade candidates for a guy like Vladar, but I definitely do think it's going to be interesting to see. I think Vladar is a guy with a $2.3 million cap. It would be hard to move right now. So it's going to be interesting to see, but it sounds like the Flames are trying to re-engage in talks around Dan Vladar, try and make a move for him so they can bring up Dustin Wolf. So we're going to have to wait and see, but that's what I'm going to talk about for today. Definitely let to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Are you surprised that any team starts to the season this year? Definitely. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about that. Are you surprised about LeBanc possibly being on waivers? Any other surprises on the waiver news? Any other surprises on the injury update news? Do the Canucks wind up moving Garland in the not too distant future, and who they move him to? Does Vladar get moved? Do the Flames wind up moving Vladar in the not too distant future? Who does he get moved to? Can the Caps acquire a top 6 forward? And if they do, who is it going to be? And do they move Oshie around the deadline? And does the play of Zach Benson wind up making Victor Olofsson expendable and possibly having him traded? Definitely. Let's hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Once again, remember to like this video and subscribe down below. We are so close to 200 subscribers. I would never be able to lose all of your guys' support, so thank you so much. So don't forget to continue to subscribe. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so definitely check that out. I have links down in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.